It is my honor and pleasure to invite the CS National Treasury Honorable John MBADI.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia MUDAVADI. Allow me to ride on the already established protocol to make my few remarks. I'll actually not read my speech, Your Excellency. And I know you will bring the apologies of the President, who actually was supposed to officiate this event, but because of commitments, you are representing him. So, Your Excellency, we are all aware that the Equalization Fund was actually established through the 2010 Constitution, which then set out under Article 204(1) that at least 0.5% of the revenue collected by the national government should be put into this fund. This is calculated on the basis of the latest audited and approved financial statements of the national government by the National Assembly. And this fund was supposed to be very specific, deliberate, and targeted. That is why it is clear in the Constitution that only 4 areas were to be covered: water, road sector, health, and electricity. If you look at Article 2043 of the Constitution, it speaks to how this money should be expended. And so it could be done directly or indirectly through conditional grants to counties. The first, as has been mentioned, the first policy, which was developed 3 years after this fund came into operation. Actually, the first 3 years, with the advent of the Constitution, Your Excellency, this fund never received any money because there was no legal framework, there was no instrument. So later, from 2013, 2014, 2014, 15, 2015, 16, appropriation was made through an Appropriation Act in 2018 to actualize the fund, and over 12 billion shillings was allocated to this fund. But Your Excellency, the first policy saw the fund administered directly by the national government through line ministries, MDS. And this was done through guidelines. There was no legal framework, but there were guidelines on the administration of this fund. And then in 2019, November, to be exact, 5th of November 2019, the High Court declared these guidelines unconstitutional, null, and void, thereby disbanding what was called the Equalization Fund Advisory Board, and this halted further expenditure from the fund. And then the court directed National Treasury to develop a statutory instrument on the administration of this fund. It is on this basis then that the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021 were passed. And so by 29th of April 2021, this paved way for the indirect administration of the fund through the county governments as conditional grants. And this is done now. You have to have an Appropriation Act of the Equalization Fund, what we call Equalization Fund Appropriation Act, for each respective year. And that follows the DORA. So, Your Excellency, 2 policies have been developed since the beginning of this fund. One that ran through to 2018, and then 2018, a new policy was developed. The first policy worked with 14 counties, which were marginalized areas, and the focus of planning and budgeting was at the 14 counties. Now, Your Excellency, this has been changed in the second marginalization policy through the input of CRA to now put it to areas, and the areas have been reduced now to sub-locations. So The second policy is covering 1,424 areas, 366 wards, 111 constituencies, and 34 counties. Your Excellency, I know this is going to be controversial, but you see, one reason why I'm at the Treasury is to give advice. It can be taken, can be ignored. This fund was supposed to have impact, high impact. Spreading it thin, in my view, does not help the cause. I know there are marginalized areas almost everywhere across the country, including where I come from. In fact, one or two sub-locations in my constituency where I used to represent for 15 years are also benefiting. But I am not cabinet secretary to represent my area. I am cabinet secretary in charge of national treasury for the whole country. So if something is not working, let us look at it. For me, my suggestion is simple. CRA, kindly, we need a debate, but kindly recommend we go back to a few counties where this money can have impact. This money was not meant to be spread this thing. That is my view, and I hold it so strongly. You can have a different opinion, but that is the fruit of democracy. We speak our minds. So, Your Excellency, I'm very proud that the actualization of this fund is now being done when I'm the cabinet secretary. So it is one of the things I'm very, very proud of. I know we have been implementing 360 projects, and I wanted just to answer or respond to the Chair Council of Governors that I've been assured that there are no pending bills under the Equalization Fund, that it is managed in a way that we procure what we can pay. As we speak today, out of the 10 billion, which was appropriated to this fund in 2023, by the way, there have only been two appropriations, 2018 and 2023. The appropriation of 2023, we have released already as National Treasury 2 billion shillings to this fund, and 1 billion has actually been released to the counties which are supposed to implement this. My guarantee is that we will make sure that we release all this money to the areas where it should be spent. So, Your Excellency, I wanted to just mention some of the challenges so that I conclude. It would be deceptive, Your Excellency, and that is not my character, to present as though the implementation of the fund has not been without challenges. The following are the challenges. One, the long process of putting in place instruments for the fund, specifically the Appropriations Act. This has contributed to delays and accumulation of arrears. So we have representation here. We have members of parliament, both houses, National Assembly and the Senate. Kindly fast track the appropriations of this fund. It doesn't help us to accumulate arrears. It puts pressure on us as National Treasury. If we would be seamlessly transferring the funds, appropriating and transferring the funds, then National Treasury would find it easy to release this fund. So that is the first ask from me. The lifespan of this fund has already been talked about. Again, the ball comes to Parliament. You need to relook or come up with amendments so that this fund is given another lease of life beyond the 20 years that was put in the Constitution. Again, in this equalization fund, there is no administration. There's no administration cost. So you have various technical committees at the county, you have committees at the sub-county, and you have the implementation committees at the sub-location of the area, as it is today, with no resources to implement or oversight or oversee the implementation of the project. That is something also that needs to be looked into. Again, I have already spoken to the shift from the focal point being counties to the areas which are considered marginalized, that we need to rethink that. And again, so that these funds can have high impact. Finally, allow me to commend the Equalization Advisory Board under the chairmanship of Ambassador Mabub, and also the Secretariat under Mr. Guyo, the CEO, that they have done tremendous work in the face of these operational challenges that have been hindering the process.